things Donald Trump has been saying is that the big wave of strikes against Iran is yet to come. He's also not ruled out the deployment of military boots on the ground in Iran. Let's go to SABC News correspondent Sherwin Bryce Pease, keeping an eye on the situation from our New York bureau. Sherwin, so bring us up to speed then with the latest remarks out of the United States.
Well, we certainly wait with great anticipation, Tembekile, for the US president to speak live. Moments away, he is going to be convening a Medal of Honor ceremony where we are told he will make remarks about the escalation we are seeing in the Middle East. This will be his first live comments. You've seen pre-recorded video statements issued soon after the initiation of the attack against Iran early Saturday and another one on Sunday. And the very latest is that 4 service members have now been confirmed killed. 4 U.S. Service members have been confirmed killed. 3 fighter jets, F-15 fighter jets, have been shot down over Kuwaiti airspace by Kuwaiti air defenses in what the U.S. is framing as friendly fire. And from an earlier press conference hosted by Pete Hegseth, the Defense Secretary, and General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the clear message, Tembekile, is that we are going to see a further military escalation here. We understand that more troops and assets are being deployed to the region. President Trump telling CNN, based on their reporting, that a big wave is yet to come. A bigger wave is yet to come against Iran. And he told Fox News that 49 Iranian leaders have been taken out so far. And so the question then becomes, what's the end goal here, Tembekile, right? Certainly the framing from President Trump in his initial video statement was that they were going to sort of decapitate the hierarchy in terms of leadership in Iran, which now appears to have happened. And then it was going to be left to the Iranian people to initiate some sort of regime change. That's now been qualified by Pete Hegseth, who said earlier today that the goal is not regime change, even though that might be the consequence of military action here. So where we go, what the end goal is, certainly we look forward to hearing the President of the United States articulate himself on that particular point.
And it's interesting that while Trump in these interviews that he's given in the last few minutes and Pete Hegseth in that briefing, the longer briefing that we heard this afternoon, are committed to continuing the war in Iran, warning that the worst is in fact still to come, neither of them have been willing at this stage to commit to a timeline of events when they expect they'll be able to reach these objectives that Trump this morning was said they're absolutely committed to seeing through.
And so you get this sort of disparate messaging in a sense, because President Trump did sort of suggest it could be 4 to 5 weeks, and Pete Hegseth not pronouncing himself on that question when asked particularly how long this might go. And clearly the Iranians are putting some sort of defense up here, right? They've even been able to penetrate the air defenses of the United States in terms of the attack that killed now 4 people, 4 U.S. service people, in addition to several injuries, and of course strikes on Israel that have killed close to a dozen people. So what is Iran's military capacity? How long can Iran withstand the barrage of incoming military assets and bombs? What is the extent of their ballistic weapons stockpile, right? We don't have the answers to that. So in terms of choreographing, how long, for how many, is it going to be another Iraq war? Hegseth says it's not. Clarity in terms of what the goals are and when those goals have been achieved. If it's not regime change, is it dismantling the nuclear arsenal, weapon, the enriched uranium that Iran possesses? Is it about destroying their ballistic missile capabilities? Is it about destroying the leadership hierarchy, which appears already to have been done? Clarity is going to be key in terms of understanding where we go from here. And understand also that Congress is now seeking to weigh in, right? I mean, this was an executive decision, a unilateral decision by the U.S. executive. What Congress is now seeking to do is to assert its war powers authority in terms of an existing war powers resolution that says Congress must authorize hostile foreign interventions by the United States. And so they are going to start this debate this week, we understand, and possibly vote as early as Tuesday in the United States Senate in terms of seeking to curtail the United States president's authority in terms of the length of time that this military engagement in Iran could continue for.
And what's also been curious, Sherwin, is why it is that on Saturday morning, the United States and Israel started, or decided at least, to start bombing Iran, because the indications, even from Oman, the mediators from the talks on the nuclear issue last week, were that Washington and Tehran were making good progress.
Absolutely. Oman's foreign minister was very, very clear in his articulation about the progress that had been made in terms of limiting Iran's stockpiling of enriched uranium, which is seen as a pathway to a nuclear bomb, even though Tehran has consistently said that that is not their ambition here. This was about research and this was about energy production. But he was very unequivocal, the Omani foreign minister, that progress was being made here. And so even the UN Secretary General in that emergency session of the UN Security Council later on Saturday said that a diplomatic pathway and opportunity has gone a-begging, essentially, in terms of the ongoing talks. I mean, there were ongoing talks. They were going to have technical talks, we understand, in Vienna this week before another round of talks. So that was certainly what was prefaced by the Omanis here. And so in the midst of those negotiations that appeared to be making progress, the US is now saying that the Iranians were not engaging in good faith. They were stalling. And these are the narratives in the fog of war that one will have to pierce through.
So what next then for the United Nations? I know, as always, the Secretary General has called for parties to step away from the brink, if you will, and cease hostilities. But what else can the UN do?
The short answer is dialogue. The UN has great convening power, but let me tell you this, the United States is now the president of the United Nations Security Council. The month of March has arrived. They've taken over from the United Kingdom on the 1st of March. They are now presiding over the council. And so in terms of what you might expect from the body that is mandated to maintain international peace and security, I think your expectations should be lowered, because there's a veto-wielding power that is presiding over the Security Council, while it is also a protagonist in this war, this military escalation you're seeing in Iran. So expect very little, except a lot of talk from the UN.
All right, Sherwin, we'll hopefully touch base with you later. Sherwin Bryce Pease, SABC News reporter in New York, as we wait for remarks from Donald Trump, the US president, to speak to us about the war that he launched on Iran in the early hours of Saturday. That lectern there that you see in picture is where he is expected to make those remarks in a room filled with other military veterans in the United States. We'll bring you the comments from Trump as soon as he begins to speak.